Welcome to Startup Silicon Valley with the Mentoring Club. And this is a series called The Life and Career Journey of Mentors. And tonight we're going to spotlight Carol Sue. And before we start, I would like to invite Liesel to kickstart the room for us.
Thank you, Hong, and welcome everybody to the room. Thank you for joining us. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving celebration and enjoyed the company of your loved ones this year in person, hopefully. And if not, in spirit, as long as you're bonded together, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And I just wanted to give you, for those of you who are coming in new to this room, I'd like to give a brief background about the Mentoring Club. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, so based in the US. And our mission is to provide a mentoring community for aspiring and seasoned leaders. Anywhere in the world, we help working people find mentors who can guide them to develop the skills they need to achieve their career and life goals. We help mentees fulfill their goals through meaningful work that creates positive impact in the world. And as mentees become successful leaders themselves, our dream is for them to become mentors to others. And this room was created in partnership with Silicon Valley Startups Club on Clubhouse, which is actually being run by one of our mentors in the Mentoring Club, who's here with us today, Sean Flynn. And so Hong mentioned that we are recording. You'll see that replace is on, but we promise to only publish the interview portion of this session. So feel free to speak freely during the Q&A portion after the interview. And I will turn over the floor now to Hong.
Thanks, Liesel. Thanks for kickstarting after we come back from Thanksgiving. So this is our first room after Thanksgiving. Um, And with that, I would like to thank Carol Sue for joining us. Carol has had still very young, but very diverse life journey already. Born in China and growing up, going to school in Singapore and then the US and, to university on the East Coast as well as eventually at Stanford with her PhD and doing so many different things. So quite a lot of things. So I'm going to explore a number of corners that were visited by Carol so that we get to know her a little bit better. So that's the purpose of the life and career journeys of mentors. With that, I'm going to start with this. So I think the journey of discovery in different ways are very important for you, Carol. Number one, you talk about two major parts of discovery. One is the discovery within, and the other one is the discovery outside. Let's start with discovery within. Can you share with us, your journey of discovery within? What is it, and what did that lead you to?
Yeah, thank you so much, Hong. Yeah, thank you so much, Lisel, Sean, Vivek, and everybody who helped to organize this container for us to meet here together. I believe nothing is accidental. We are here today for a reason, and the reason might be different for each person, and I want to cherish that. The journey of discovery is really important to me. Yeah, when we were kind of talking about, oh, what can we talk about today? I just, with Lisel and Hong, I just kind of almost free association, basically just talk about what I care about in a free association way, without much filtering. And then what came up was discovery and how important that is to me. Discovery from within and discovering the world after 30, 40 years of that so far. I realize actually the two are not that different. I used to, maybe the first 25 years of my life, my focus was about discovering the world. I was born in China. I always liked traveling. When I got the chance to leave my parents and to go explore, I want to get as far away as possible. At the time, within China. And then when I had a chance to go abroad, I also took on the opportunity, not just to explore geographies, but also explore culture and explore other people's mind, explore what the world has to offer. But I think in the latter 10, 12 years of my life, I realized that I have been ignoring the exploring within, in the sense that I thought I was exploring my own interest, but turns out they all have a external aspect, and there's an internal aspect of who am I, my own well-being, my habits in the mind, and the yearnings of my heart. All of that are actually not really directly explored.
mm,
And I learned that actually, in some ways, the two, the explore within and explore external, becomes each other. When I explore within, my external world actually become broader. And when
mm,
I explore the outside, that also informs my inner world. So I'll
mm.
stop here. It's a
Right.
very, very
Oh,
interesting dynamic.
hmm. Yeah. And in that the the internal world, the discovery of the internal world, um, can you share with us the practices that, what kind of practice have you exercised or have you learned or practiced? Can you share a little bit of that with us? And then how did you get started? And what did those practices brought to you?
So you mean exploring within or
Yeah,
externally?
exploring within, yeah, with your contemplative practices, can you share what kinds of practices have you been practicing, and then and how did you get to them?
I didn't know how important exploring within was until I hit a big wall
Mm,
in my life when I was doing my PhD. When I was writing the PhD dissertation at Stanford at the time, there were no real strong external demand, even though you think, yeah, Stanford is a very competitive place. That's true. And a lot of really smart people are there. I was in a very supportive environment in my
mm,
PhD program. And
mm,
so there are a lot of that. When I was writing my dissertation, it helped me to see how much pressure I was putting on myself,
mm,
the pressure to be perfect, the pressure to be famous, the pressure to be
mm,
to have important reputation, the pressure to have a bright future, even though it didn't directly come from my advisor at the time. And that really, all of that pressure and anxiety about the future really pushed me to a complete stop in terms of my productivity. And so, in some ways, I was forced to actually make some change in my life to really look within what is causing all of these anxiety and judgment. That was the start of a journey within. And then there, I was at Berkeley at the time, even though I was going to Stanford. I was living at Berkeley and with my husband, and I couldn't really get much done on
mm,
my dissertation. So I started to look around. I was like, what is going on? Why am I so anxious? So I started to look into meditation, contemplative practices at Berkeley. There are many actually, in the San Francisco Bay Area, where there are just a lot of resources to actually start that journey to look within. When I first sat in a meditation class learning how to breathe,
mm,
I didn't really have the patience for it. And I was like, how's this going to help me be productive? But then there is something about it that really was speaking to me in ways that I just never heard before. I wasn't very productive anyway. Let me just try this. There's something that seems to be really helpful here or nurturing here. Fast forward 10, 12 years, looking back, I realized a lot of it is how I got burned out by a lot of mental habits and how inner healing needs to happen, not really from traumatic childhood or past trauma, but it's just the day to day habits that we carry with us. Turns out that some of the contemplative practices that helps me to know myself better really helped, but in a very slow and gradual way. But
Mm.
it is a very deep and fundamental way. So that was my experience.
Mm. Great. Thanks for sharing that with us. I mean, that's certainly a complex journey. I think philosophers for a long time have been saying, have been warning that, a life not um, unexamined is not a life well lived. So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, it's good that, sometimes we get ourselves onto the journey of self-discovery. Thanks for sharing that with us. Now, with regards to discovery outside, you have been in many, many different fields, and you got into, fairly, for most people, really, fairly esoteric. Although now it's trending up. The world of cryptos and light and self-organizations and those things, right? Can you please share with us, a couple of things you got yourself into and what they mean?
Thank you for that. Yeah, so I feel I'm an open book. I can go anywhere, not to self indulge in the sense that I'm happy to share any experience that I have in different fields, so that if there's anything any of you think is useful or you're interested, you can always double click on something later. So yeah, so I'm happy to just give you a broad
Right.
painting of the different fields that I've delved into so far, then you're welcome to double click on any of that. Different people are very different. Some people are born, or some people very quickly in their life find a vision and a goal. I want to become this, I want to
Mhm.
do that. They go for it. And then for me, I think what's really interesting is the process of discovery. So I didn't for the longest time have a goal of, oh, I want to become so and so, or I want to achieve this and that. The process of discovery is really interesting to me. So I happily go into the field of history, philosophy, just different disciplines in academia, because I was in academia for a very long time. Sociology, economics, psychology, organizational behavior, business school. And then after I left academia, because that was after my realization how much kind of habits that I have that I picked up when I was in academia. And I really want to take a break from it because I want to more focus on the inside out journey. I started a podcast, so I learned about the podcast field, a podcast where I curate the human experience of work. So I'm still really interested in the psychology and sociology of work and organizations. That's my kind of special concentration when I was in academia. But then from there, I learned about self organizing paradigms. So instead of the hierarchical structure in corporate America and pretty much everywhere today, you have this pyramid structure of people on the front line, and then you get narrower and narrower, and then you have one boss, the CEO, and then the CEO has a board on top of the CEO. Instead of that structure, can we have other structures that enables the distribution of power and make power dynamics more explicit to people at work? That's a domain of self-organizing domain, and that can be very much applied to new forms of entrepreneurship, new forms of startups, because it's so hard to change existing structures. And then a lot of people are actually leaving the existing structures because they are fed up with this large bureaucracy, with this narrow career ladder, with the glass ceiling and all of that. It is very applicable in the real world these days, these self-organizing paradigms. Yes, because of the self-organizing paradigm, I got into crypto. The origin of cryptocurrencies is about decentralization. It's about redistributing power from, again, these hierarchical power structures to more distributed. So if you think about Facebook owning all the data of the users, but it's the users that's giving value to Facebook. So how can you potentially use cryptocurrency to have all the users own a piece of Facebook, for example? You can redistribute, decentralize the ownership from any large corporation to make it flatter so that everybody can own a piece of the pie and share the profits. The crypto idea is very much aligned with self-organizing. That's why I joined one of the largest crypto venture studios called Consensus.
Mm.
It is on the Ethereum ecosystem. We grew very fast from, like, in 4 years, from one person to 1,400 people around the world. And there are a lot of people are really, they're not here just for the money, and they're really about redistributing power. I helped both to study the social impact of cryptocurrency, but also the internal development, like as an organization, if we want to decentralize power, if we want to empower people to have more work autonomy, if we get rid of the hierarchical structure, what might be possible? We can't just say, hey, you can do whatever you want and then miracles will happen. That can't happen. What kind of scaffold do we have to build for people to organize in a more effective way? So that was my question when I was at Consensus. Fast forward, it's because of the crypto connection, I joined a social impact venture called Savor Exchange, which is trying to support a global movement in time banking. Basically, the idea is, instead of using money to exchange value, what if we directly use time to exchange value and everybody's hour equals the same? So it's a
Mm.
way to bootstrap especially marginalized communities, because they oftentimes don't have money, but then everybody's got time. That has been a global movement since the 1980s in the US and can go longer, even in human history. It's a type of bartering, basically, with time instead of money. So from there, I learned a lot about the constraints of money, what money is for and what money is not for, all of that. Fast forward, I started during the pandemic, actually started to collaborate with a few really forward thinking organizational designers, organizational development consultants, and coaches to really double click into the organizing piece. And we offer facilitation, coaching, and consulting for organizations, either for profit or nonprofit or the government, to really experiment with new ways of organizing their resources and people, with the focus on the millennials generation, as well as how do we help people to really fulfill themselves, their inner yearnings, through work.
Wow. Wow, that's very much on the leading edge of what society has experimented. Yeah, and yeah, thanks for sharing that. Now, you started to mention that you have met with some other people and set up consulting, like consulting services, right? To offer consulting services to nonprofit for-profit organization, companies and governmental agencies. So can you tell us a little bit about that, about, the aspect of developmental consulting, right? Is that the methodology that you're applying, that you're using to deliver your services?
Thank you. Yeah, one thing is what we often observe the consultants at the big four companies do, and actually a lot of consultants, independent consultants or consultants in consulting agencies or boutiques, they come in and they want to solve your problem. They are the expert, they help you to solve a problem, and they oftentimes give you a great blueprint of like, okay, this is the solution, and then they leave, and then the people in the organization will end up having to implement it, and oftentimes there's a huge gap between the conception and the implementation. And for us, because of this inside out approach, we see consulting very differently. We see organizational development, team development very differently. We don't claim ourselves as the expert. Instead, we create containers for people in the team or the organization to come together and figure things out. And oftentimes what we found is people don't have the skills or don't have the same mindset to have difficult conversations. Oftentimes when the company or team has a problem that they need consultants, a lot of times is people can't communicate anymore with each other. People feel
Mm,
stuck, and then they think that they can throw money at some consultants and the consultants will come and solve the problem. But oftentimes the wisdom is actually already in the team and in the organization, but
mm,
it's just locked up.
mm,
And how we as consultants or coaches or facilitators, whatever you see, we come here to help kind of scaffold a process so that people, all the stakeholders, especially the ones, the marginalized stakeholders whose voice are not heard, we invite all of them in the room and co-create the solution, co-design the solution, so that and also we give people enough tools so that when we leave the engagement, people still have really good tools to continuously practice and continuously solve the problem, and from a different angle, because the really thorny problems that organizations face, they're not going to be solved just by overnight or just by 1 week of hard work or two. Oftentimes they have years of context, and so you need to really build the capacity for the team, for the people in the organization, to be willing to have difficult conversations, to try different approaches, to have a way of tracking what's working, what's not. Basically, it's to have that capacity so that they don't need us anymore. We really, yeah, that is what I share with my current collaborators. We have a company called The Present of Work. So
mm,
instead of talking about the future of work and trying to whether draw a utopia picture or dystopia picture, we really want to focus on the present moment of how work is treating each of you
mm.
right now, and what is the problem at hand, and really bring our presence, our full presence to it.
Yeah, yeah. In looking things up, I was misinterpreting the present of work. I was thinking present as in a gift, the gift of work. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. So
Yeah, that's
the present
actually
of
a
work.
double meaning. Yes,
Mhm,
we do. I personally, maybe I'm naive and maybe I'm too
mhm,
idealistic, but I do believe that work should not just be a means to an end, meaning to make money or to
mhm,
make a living. I believe people have way more potential than just to make a living. And
mhm,
so I really want to help organizational leaders. By leader, I don't mean just the managers. Anybody can be a leader in their own way. So I really want to help them to use work as a vehicle to help them unleash their potential, and thereby work becomes a present. So yeah, you're right on, Hong.
Okay. Yeah. So you touch on. I like to drill down a little bit before moving on further afield, which is this: uh, the difficult conversations. You touch on difficult conversations, and it seems to me like that's the door into the deep meanings and the solutions and the discovery and the transformations needed to make work more meaningful and make the organization more productive. Is that the correct understanding? That is the door to further growth and to go deeper and to develop further goes through difficult conversations, which are the kind of things people uh, normally avoid traveling through that. Am I correct? Is that part of your methodology?
I appreciate you picking up that theme of having difficult conversations. I don't think it's the door. I don't think that's the only door. I think it's a very important tool. Oftentimes, when you're stuck at work or in a relationship, you've already tried to talk. You've already tried to communicate what you want to our teammates or to other stakeholders, and it's not apparently it hasn't worked. In that case, you can't just drag people to say, hey, let's have a difficult conversation. People will be like fighting their way out. And so that might not be a door for a lot of people. The communication piece is a very important piece in the health of an organization or a team. Maybe the door might not be difficult conversation. The door might be, hey, let's come together and see how we make decisions together. We can do a
Mhm,
review. The door can be governance. The door can be, let's talk about how we deal with money. The actual door can
mhm,
be anything. The door can be, hey, we're so tired and burned out. Let's have a team offsite just to chill together. And oftentimes we do recommend that as a gateway, because oftentimes people are so busy in their day to day, and then they can't kind of see from a higher attitude. They can't really see the larger picture anymore. There are many gateways, there are many doors, but there are some kind of essential tools around collective governance, for example, that is
mhm,
different from a hierarchical structure. Tools of a kind of creativity process, for example. Sometimes taking on a challenge will have the team come together, a new challenge maybe. Yeah, so there are many different kind of tools in the toolbox. And then communication that does reflect authenticity, the
mhm,
communication that is not about, I want to put a mask over me and try to manipulate you. No, it's not that kind of communication, but more authentic communication where we can honestly share our needs.
mhm.
That is another really important tool.
To tie back things a little bit, so you have talked also about the inside out purpose, right? So um, is is that related to the inside out purpose to be in tune with our needs and our yearnings and to express it, to make it happen within the work, within the teams that we work with? Is that a big part of it?
Yeah. Can you say a little bit more about like
Yeah,
inside out purpose and how's that different from?
yeah. So I think you were sharing about the the tools of expressing our needs, right? And to have conversations to communicate well um, with the people we work with. Um, so is that part of building, purpose inside out? Is that related to your theme of inside out purpose?
Yeah, to me, it's very much related. To me, at least personally, I want to be able to show up my work that I don't have to hide or pretend or
Mm,
manipulate.
mm,
And I can be authentic. I can say, this is what I care about. This is what I think is my purpose. This is why I need this support from you or this input from you. So yeah, so I think the inside out, if the purpose is derived from the inside out, to me it's much easier than if the purpose is derived from the outside in. The way I make the distinction is that, do I want to do this because I want to make my parents happy, for example,
mm,
because I want recognition from other people? To me, that's more of an outside in approach.
mm,
Do I join crypto world because it can make me a lot of money, or because this is the newest trend that everybody else is joining, therefore I want to join it, and therefore I feel a sense of purpose. To me, all of that is a outside in approach. To me, an inside out approach of finding purpose is really attuning to myself, and in some ways accept myself. I have shortcomings. There are things I'm not good at, things that I hate to do. I have lots of habits that are not perfect or efficient.
mm,
How can I first learn to be with myself and then accept it without indulging the bad habits or the weakness or whatever, but really to accept myself in a non-judgmental way, and to really look at, what really makes me tick, what really kind of makes my heart beat faster, without any expectations like, oh, I need to figure this out as soon as possible so that I can, again, going back to tying it with an external goal, like so that I can be somebody, or so that I can make how much money and all of that. Yeah, is to create that space for myself to, sometimes I just don't have any clarity. Sometimes I just, in the discovery process, most of the time I might just feel lost, and that is seen from the inside out as well, from the inside. That is accepted. And then from there, to really let go a lot of the things that are not essential, so that then I can find what is really essential about me that I really, really care about. And so it's not a one day you'll figure it out and it will all be clear. It's
mm,
sometimes you will go back to, oh, I'm not clear again, but allow that process to evolve, and then to bring that into the work, so that I can clearly communicate to people things that is aligned with my inner state right now. What I found is that it's so much easier for me.
mm,
It's so, my life just becomes, I don't have to manage people's expectations. There's sometimes, yes, of course, I want to make other people happy. That's still part of me, but I'm not enslaved by other people's expectations on me. I can be honest
mm,
with people of where I am. And oftentimes I get so much more support from people. And also, when I commit to something, they know that I commit with pleasure and joy.
mm,
Like, I'm not trying to take on this so that you owe me something. That includes this, just we're talking now because I just genuinely enjoy this, not because I want to get something
mm.
from you, or this is one step in my career ladder. None of that. So I'll stop here.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing so openly and generously with us.
Thank you very much for joining us. Again, we are an open community here. We're continually looking for mentors to help our mentees, and mentees to help them become better leaders anywhere in the world. We're trying to connect our mentors and mentees. So, with that, I would like to thank you all again and have a great rest of the week and enjoy the journey. Thank you, Hong. Thank you, Carol, and all those who joined us.
Thanks, Lizo. And thank you again, Carol. Thanks for sharing. Okay.
Yeah,
Wishing
thank
everybody a
you.
good evening.